Hi everybody, and this is a bit of a different video today, and what we're going to be doing is discussing the relationship I actually had with Nathan Oakley and how it all transpired and what I actually feel about Nathan and his beliefs. Now then, what I'm going to say in this might be controversial to some people. I'm going to be unbiased in my recollections, and I'm going to just try and give you a different insight into not just myself, but also what I believe Nathan Oakley is, what he's doing, and the person that he is behind the scenes too. I think you'll find it very interesting. So again, this is just from my personal perspective. I could be completely wrong about some of the assumptions I make. I don't think I am, but I'm still open to that. And anything that I do say must always be taken with a little pinch of salt, but I'm not telling any lies here. I'm going to tell the absolute truth as how I recollect it. Okay, so here we go. So the first time I had anything to do with Nathan Oakley was many years ago, and I was in the side chat of a gentleman called Isa Mahalski's live streams, and there was a discussion going on, Globe Earth versus Flat Earth, and Sleeping Warrior had brought me to that channel, and I was listening to the discussions that were going on. And I had put a video out, the sunburn video, and the Globers at the time asked Nathan to go and take a look at it. Now, I had no idea who Nathan was, so of course I checked him out, looked at his channel as he went off to go and have a look at the video. And I saw that he had, 5,000 subscribers, something like that. And I thought, wow, okay, this guy's great. And when he returned, he didn't give the reaction that I thought he would give. See, I thought all flat earthers stuck together, and clearly, I hadn't been in the community very long. I had no idea what any of this was about, or really, and how it all worked and the dynamics that goes on between the globe earth and the flat earth. So I was very naive at that time. And Nathan came back with a very surprising, pretty much you're a fucking wanker kind of thing to me. And I didn't take it very well. Pretty much I was a snowflake. I was a very naive, very raw snowflake. And when he said that to me, it lit a fuse. It's a bit like how Rachel's behaving with Fight the Flat Earth currently, and how she went onto his stream and did, 30 comments and things like that and videos and the like. So it's similar to that. And I had this sort of same reaction too. I wasn't used to getting pushback from my beliefs. And Nathan gave me pushback on this video, and I was really offended by it. And I think I emailed him a very abusive email. And Nathan obviously loves this content. He loves putting information out. So he didn't waste that opportunity to do a video about me, actually, funnily enough. And, basically just tell everyone how much of a snowflake I was, which I was, to be fair. So I took that personally too, that he'd done a video against me. So I responded by doing a video against him, and then this went back and forth, and it was very childish. Those videos, great fun making them. They were very, I'm not proud of the videos that I did. I don't even know if I've still got them. I might have one of them somewhere. Anyway, it was very childish, very naive. And I hated him. And I believe that he hated me. And that was the introduction to Nathan Oakley. So he was a very seasoned campaigner. He'd been there before. He was obviously very used to all of the back and forth. And I certainly wasn't. I was green as grass. So that certainly took me by surprise anyway. And after that, it was, maybe a month or 2 months after that. I can't recall now. It might have even been a lot longer than that. I really can't remember. It must have been a lot longer than that, because I think it was coming up to Christmas and we'd been out filming back in the April or something like that. So it must have been months and months later, but Nathan had started a flat earth debate. So I think he was on like show 60 odd or 70 odd or something like that. And Sleeping Warrior contacted me because I was at home, and he said, can you pop onto Nathan's show and do this presentation for him? I said, why? He said, well, the Globers are in there and they're saying that they've got all this proof and they haven't. And, we need someone to come in with proof like what you've got and to shut them up, basically. I said, but it's Nathan's show. I don't like the guy. Yeah, but will you do it for me? So I thought about it. I said, right, okay, then I will. I'll do it for you because you specifically asked me. It's not for Nathan. And anyway, I did that presentation. And it was a bit of silence in there, actually, funnily enough. It was a pretty decent presentation. I mean, if you know my location locally, I could go down to the beach and film quite often and see far further than you should do on a globe by a long way, far further than was the normal. So maybe it's something local to this region, I don't know. Maybe there's just an awful lot of refraction here. But back then, because refraction really hadn't been spoken about so much, my evidence kind of stood the test of time. And they weren't, well, the Globers that were on the panel at the time certainly weren't used to that level of, or that amount of visual flatness. So it was a very, very comprehensive breakdown of my observer height, position, and very clear and exactly where I'd done everything. And it certainly did break the globe mathematics in that respect. So, of course, it went down very well with the flat earthers and the globe earthers. I had a bit of the wind taken out of the sails at that time. So after the show had finished, Nathan wanted me to hang around, have a chat. He thanked me for coming on, blah, 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 blah. Said that he was going to unlist the video and release it on at the Christmas special. And I believe that video was put out 2 years running, actually, because it was just a great video. Anyway, he kind of apologised. I sucked it up and apologised to him and said, I was a bit childish, blah, blah, blah. He agreed that he would also maybe overreacted and he shouldn't have been that way. And we started to form a very tenuous sort of friendship from that moment on. And I think over time, I actually considered him a friend. Over time, he's one of those people that if you followed the flat earth debate progression, he went from being a very laid back, sit back and, don't get involved person to the person that he is now. So it's totally different. And that transition happened over time. And there was probably reasons for that. And I might speak about that, actually. I think I kind of know the timelines about that, how that sort of transpired. So, as I say, he was one of these guys that you could sit down to, and after the show had finished, you could talk to him. Normal, everyday things. He'd tell you about his worries in life, blah, 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 blah. You could express the same. We started to get this bit of, the friendship grew, basically. And at that time, he was pretty much all right with the globe earthers. But he told me that there was a point in his life where when he decided to do YouTube, he wanted to be a YouTuber. And the channel was doing all right. It wasn't great in any way, shape or form. I think when we started, there was only 50 or 60 live viewers. And then after I started appearing on the shows, that went up to 100, 110. So the show was starting to pick up a little bit of speed. But he'd had a chat with his wife and he'd said that, and they both agreed, that if it didn't make a success within a year, he would have to go back to work. So he'd been doing it for some time now, and, it really wasn't paying him what he could earn as a part-time job. He needed to earn £800 per month from the show, and it wasn't doing that. I think if you look at how much money each video would make on an ad basis, very little, $3 or $4 maybe. And the super chats just weren't coming in, so he wasn't getting support that way. So he was literally on the verge of quitting. It was a case of, it was that close. It's like, it's not performing enough for him to carry on doing what he wanted to do. And that's when I suggested to him, why don't you set up a Patreon? And he was averse to that idea to start with. He didn't want to go down that route. And I said to him, well, if you don't, then you're going to have to go to work. It's as simple as that. So you either do or you don't. It's up to you. I pushed him a little bit, to go for it. And eventually he said, okay, I'll give it a go. And that was such a success. It went from nothing, Patreon-wise, to £800 a month within a couple of months, I would say. You know, almost instantaneously, I would say. And that was a big relief for him, because that income allowed him then to be able to say, okay, I can now focus on this. The trouble is, when that happened, he now had the income that he needed to survive, and rather than just being a quote-unquote moderator who would sit in the background, he could then start taking more of a proactive, participation in the shows, because he didn't need to have the backing so much of the Globe Earthers or their super chats, because he already had the income from Patreon. So that freedom allowed him to express his opinions a little bit more. And it was a gradual thing. You know, the more people gave super chats, the more money he was earning. The Patreon was doing all right. That then gave him more freedom to actually partake more in the shows. Now, I've only ever met Nathan once, and it was at a convention. So I'd gone down for the weekend with Sleeping Warrior. We'd stayed overnight. The next day, Nathan had showed up. He'd only turned up for one day, and he only stayed for 4 hours. And it was a very surreal thing, actually, because we'd all sat down for lunch, to get from the canteen, and Nathan had turned up with a lunchbox. A couple of little sandwiches in there and banana or something. Very, very meager, thing that he just turned up. And, he was... He didn't spend any money there. He was very frugal with everything. He was totally different to how I would have thought. And he was very introvert too. He wouldn't socialise too much with people. He tended to stay away from people a lot. I spoke to him a few times, obviously, whilst he was there, but he was on there for about 4 hours. And for the most part, I think he just turned up to show up, to say that he'd been there, basically, more than anything. And when you actually meet somebody face to face, you kind of get a different perspective of who they are. And the one thing I've picked up with Nathan is, which might explain a lot, and this is me just being honest with my recollections here, is that I think he has a problem with his body form. And that's not me taking the piss, that's just me being completely honest. If you was to line him up with all the other people that were there, and you asked them all to pick one person that had a body shape that just wasn't correct, they would all have pointed at Nathan. Now, it's possible that he'd been a bigger person in the past and has lost quite a lot of weight, and he's quite bulbous around the bum and the hips and things like that. That's a possibility, I don't know. But certainly his shape was more like it's like thin at the top and then bulbous and then thin at the bottom. It's a very, very weird shape. He doesn't have a belly, but it all comes out at the sides and the back. It is so weird. And maybe that's why he can't actually interact properly in reality, in the real world, or have a job or hold a job down, because it's quite possible that he probably gets bullied for that situation. So I'm making a lot of assumptions there as to why he wanted to become a YouTuber. I'm making a lot of those assumptions based upon his look. But having met him and seen that part of him, which you guys probably don't get to see because you'll never see from the top up, it might explain why he's always got fired from jobs or walked out on jobs and things like this. It's because the jobs that he did when he was doing his driving, he was on his own. He can't work in groups of people. And maybe it's because of that. Maybe there's some kind of psychological thing going on, or maybe some kind of bullying or something like that. And I get it. So because to be fair, if I'd seen somebody walking down the street like him, I'd have laughed, it would have been like giggling, I'd have felt it was funny. Then I'd have felt it was tight, and I'd thought, what am I doing? But you can imagine that some people just don't have that same restraint, so other people may be a little bit more, look at you kind of thing. And maybe that's affected him and why he's on YouTube. And maybe that's why his persona's changed so much from the kind of meek person that I would say when I met him, which was this, as I say, introverted person, didn't really socialise that too much, didn't overpower anybody or anything like that, kind of just blended into the background. and only showed up for a very short time and then went home, to the person that you actually see online. So it's quite possible, like I say, that there are mitigating circumstances for his behaviour the way he is on his YouTube channel. So that's one thing I would say with that. It could also be just a personality thing, because as I say, he's one of these that just sits away in the corner and maybe just likes his own company, and maybe that's why he is that way. But certainly you get the impression that having met him, and he doesn't come across the same sort of person as you would expect online. You definitely get the impression that he was perhaps bullied at school, and not for the reason that I've just stated about his shape, but just because of the personality that he is. When you've met him in real life, you might understand. So, as I say, that's all just my opinion. No, I could be completely wrong, so I'm quite happy to accept that. And that's not me having a go at Nathan. That's actually me just trying to say to people, look, maybe look at him a little bit differently. Maybe he's got other issues going on too. Moving past that, I would say that as a family man, I do actually feel that he is the quintessential family person. In other words, I believe that whatever relationship he has with his partner and with his children works for them. So I know his wife Paula works, and I know that Nathan works from home and looks after the kids, etc. So in a lot of relationships, that works. And for him, it clearly does. I mean, it's quite clear that he really loves Paula, because I'll be honest, when we were talking and Paula would come home from work, he would immediately come off the call, spend time with her, and then return later to carry on wherever we left off. So he always made time for family. So, and I know there's a video out there, Slappygate video, I understand that too. Maybe that was a heat of the moment thing, I don't know. I'm not saying that it isn't, and I'm not saying that it is. I'm just giving an unbiased opinion here. But the impression I got after spending years talking to the guy was that he did care deeply about his family. So, I just want to put that out there, because there is other people saying other things about him. I just want to let you know that, from my personal perspective, the slappy thing, do I feel great about putting that on a video? No, because, I kind of feel that on the bigger scale, he is a better person than that. That on the bigger scale, that that relationship and the dynamics of the family is a good on the whole for them. Now, some people will argue and say, well, if he's only earning £800 a month doing YouTube, he could be earning 3 or 4 times as much money doing a regular job. And I totally get that. But then again, also on the other side of the coin, it might not work for them. That relationship might fail due to the fact that he's doing that. So whatever dynamics they've got going, I do think it's it works for them. I wouldn't say that there's any abuse going on there, even though, that video is out there. Probably something that he regrets. I understand that too, because I was actually on that call, and we had some words as soon as that show finished. It was never, that was never published, but there was definitely some words that were spoken immediately afterwards by not just myself, but there's a few other people on the panel too that raised the concerns about that. So I think it was, perhaps just a brief moment of something that just happened. So I know I'm making excuses, but I'm trying to be unbiased here with, with that viewpoint. Moving on, we have why I left the Flat Earth debates, and that was because Nathan Oakley had invited a guy called Quantum Eraser to start coming on the panel more and participating more, and Nathan was taking more of his arguments as gospel. And he's a very imposing figure, Quantum Eraser. Not when you've seen him on a photograph, believe you me, but when you actually hear him and how overpowering he is kind of like a bit of a whirlwind, let's say. And for whatever reason, Nathan really took to his style of argument. And I get that. If that's what he wanted, that's fine. But when he did that, he kind of pushed other people to one side, and he started to take on the mannerisms of Quantum Eraser. So, this idea that you needed to provide evidence for your beliefs, like Quantum Eraser will never provide citations or proof for his arguments, and yet the Globers were expected to provide it for themselves, but it wasn't the other way around. It was like one rule for one and not for another. So there was a massive heated debate on the live stream where I completely lost it with all of them. And it was very, I lost it, told them straight, and that was my last appearance on there. That to me, I was in it for the truth. I wasn't in it for to be hiding stuff. If there was a piece of evidence that I needed, and they said they had it, I wanted to see it. If they weren't providing it, then that was just a load of crap as far as I was concerned. So I had my doubts at that point, and that's why I left. And even though I set my own show up and competed against Nathan, the final fallout from that was when I actually on a live stream turned around and said something along the lines of, well, you won't get muted, or you won't get muted here, or you won't get muted behind the so-called mute button here, something like that, something to do with a mute button. Nathan was in the chat, he heard that, he messaged me on Skype, lost it with me, and yeah, that was it. So that's my total interactions with Nathan and who I think he is. Now, do I believe that he's in it for the truth? Probably not. I think now there's enough information out there to know that he must know that he's only trying to win an argument rather than prove the shape of the earth. I think he knows the information's out there. He's just doing it for a business, just to get by. So for whatever relationship he has with his family, how that works, clearly this job that he's doing is suitable for his family. His belief system is perfect for his audience, and he'll probably continue to do that until less than say 100 people start watching his show, and he's close to that now. It's dropped quite substantially, and you can also see that his Patreon has dropped too. I believe that's substantially below the 800 that it was, and also you can tell that he's starting to struggle recently because he's pumping out video after video after video to try and build up those little $3 here and $4 there of additional content, just to try and make it to the point where he can actually live. So you can see the desperation, with what's going on now. The super chats aren't coming in anymore. So it's probably only a matter of time before, he has to call it, or his wife will have to call it for him. And when that happens, I don't know what he's going to do, because, personally, as I say, I don't think he can, and he's already told me this anyway, that he can't fit in the real world. He has to have a job that's online. So what he does with his channel, I don't know. I would give it maybe 6 months, I would think. I think in 6 months to maybe a year at the most, and then probably the flat earth debates will be no longer. And I think by that time probably too, he might even want to come back to the globe. How about that? I mean that's a speculation and a half, but I wouldn't put it past him to try that, simply because he will realise that his revenue stream is ended on flat earth, and becoming a globe earther might be the next way for him to reincarnate himself as a YouTuber, because that's what he wants to be, a YouTuber. So I hope that's kind of given you an insight into who he was, the seasoned guy that kind of took me under his wing for a time, showed me the ropes, taught me about being having a backbone, let's say. And I listened to everything that he said, and here I am with my backbone. And pretty much that's it. I don't know what else to say. The person that you see online, I don't believe is a person that you would meet in the real world. Let's put it that way. And that this persona is created for himself online, this king of his own realm, this mute button friendly guy that can just keep muting people all the time because, he can be the debater and he can also be the moderator on his show. So he's got it all. He's got everything he needs to be the king of his domain, let's say. And I think that's all I've got to say for that. Hope that's been a good insight into Nathan Oakley, and I hope I wasn't too cruel or whatever. But just being honest. as best I can. And maybe let's give you a bit of insight into who he is, and maybe where he's going to go. Who knows? Till the next time.